Welcome to the new Industrialists, a video series where we explore innovation in the industrial space. And we would like to have this conversation with you today from the show floor of Ignite. I'm here with Jason Schern. Jason, you are a field CTO at Cognite.
Yes, that's right.
That is a very unusual, very interesting position. What does it mean to be a field CTO?
The joke that I make is I'm not the real CTO, but I keep the real CTO from getting airline status. So I represent the office of the CTO to our customers and partners out in the field and working to help them find ways to innovate in this new age of AI and data.
And you, Cognite, you guys are all about making sure the data is ready for AI.
Yes, and what's actually interesting is we started 8 years ago with the intent of being an industrial AI company. So our founders were former Google AI people and said, hey, we're going to go into the heavy asset industrial space and we're going to go do AI. And as they got into it, they realized the data wasn't ready for it yet. And so they pivoted very early on to say, we got to go solve this data challenge first. And if we do that, then we might get another bite of the apple. And that's exactly what's played out. It's pretty fun.
Okay, so you and I know that this is difficult. Why? Why is it so difficult?
Industrial data is uniquely challenging for a couple of reasons. Two main reasons.
Yeah.
The first one being it's diverse at an extreme level. It's a little bit of structured data like you'd have in any other vertical space, but it's a ton of unstructured data and a lot of what we call time series data, which is sensor data coming off industrial equipment. And that diversity of the data drives siloing, because you can't store, manage, search, and aggregate trillions of rows of sensor data the same way that you would a schematic for a chemical plant or an offshore oil rig. And so that siloing of data makes it really hard to be able to get a complete picture of what's going on in a very interactive level user performance way. And then the second challenge, which is really unique to heavy asset industrial space, is none of the data matches. So the tags or the classifiers in those sensor data doesn't match what's on the schematic, it doesn't match what's in the work orders from your ERP system. And so even if you could somehow unsilo it and bring it together, you can't actually join it together because nothing matches up. And so what we have tried to do is to solve both of those. One, by providing highly optimized ways to deal with that diverse data so that I can deliver it at sub-second level performance. But then the other is using machine learning algorithms and other tools to find those semantic, meaningful relationships in the data and then persist them and save them into a knowledge graph. So now I can navigate throughout all that diverse data seamlessly.
Let's say you have the data.
Yes.
You've solved the problem. I know we haven't yet, so we're going to explore that a bit.
Yeah.
Well, let's say we solved the problem.
Yes.
What scenarios, what industrial, manufacturing, oil and gas scenarios can you actually solve by now layering AI on top of this?
Well, there's several. One example I'll provide, and this is a very simplistic example, is in heavy asset industrial spaces, they do a lot of what we call RCA, root cause analysis activities. So some incident happens, you need to do a very thorough deep dive analysis of what happened so that you can solve it in a way that it would be impossible for it to happen again in the future. And that takes a long time to do. And so one of our customers, it took them typically months to go and do this. And we were able to work with them to take that from months down to days, and now some aspects of it down to just minutes and hours. So you can imagine that if normally it would take you 6 days to find the data to do an RCA, and now it takes you 15 minutes, you can do a lot more RCAs. And what's happening at these large companies is because of how long it takes and how difficult it is to do these processes, they can only do the most severe incidents. And so they're not actually doing all the RCAs that they need to do as a business to improve safety, scalability, and all these other things. But if you can drastically reduce the time that it takes to do these at a higher level of quality, now I can do more of them. So now I can resolve more of these incidents in a way that they could never happen again. And so that's just a simple example of taking something that literally took 6 days down to 15 minutes.
Do you need specific skills as a customer to be able to do this? Like, what does it really take to be in a position to be one of those customers with those outcomes?
You just need a level of subject matter expertise in your business and processes. We can provide the technology, and as long as you can bring the subject matter expertise over your particular assets, then we can get these things done in weeks to months.
So it's more important to have skills and resources and understanding of the processes than to have a data scientist on your team as a customer to be able to do it?
That's correct. Now, data scientists on these teams are super valuable because they do understand the underlying context for a lot of the data because of work that they've been doing in the past. So they're valuable, but it's one of those things that it's a leveling field of bringing this technology to bear allows you to do what you do best, which is understand your business to achieve these outcomes.
Since you're giving examples, I'm also going to give you an example
Great.
for my question.
Yes.
So yes, all of this is happening, but you have Fred, 20 years of experience, that he's the person who was reading all that data before. His intelligence was the one that was making judgment calls on all that data.
Yes.
How do you convince Fred that when his world is changing, that it's a good idea, that he needs to maybe change with it? Is that what's happening?
It is what's happening, and I'm actually going to steal from a conversation that I had with the ARC advisory group. They coined a phrase that I'm going to steal a little bit with. They call it the synapse worker, which is, all the initiatives over the last several years were all about the connected worker. How can I get that expert that you just described the data that they need at the right time to make a decision? That has been super valuable through all of our digitization initiatives and other things, is trying to get data to the right people at the right time. But now if I can apply AI on that data, I can also give them a first pass reasoning over that data and present them with options rather than just presenting them with data. And so when you move from the connected worker to the synapse worker is taking advantage of automating a lot of the steps to gather the data that you need, make initial assumptions and recommendations, and now the worker is using their subject matter expertise to provide strategic oversight, exception handling, and governance over what is the ultimate decision and action that you take on that data that's been given to you. A simple example is I was working with the largest oil refiner in Japan, and we were at their largest refinery. And at this refinery, they had 800 engineers. They call it engineers, but maintenance workers and reliability engineers and all of these. And they work across 3 shifts. And the plant manager said, look, I've got 800 people working across 3 shifts. They come in and at the beginning of their shift, they spend 2 to 3 hours just looking for the data that they need to go out and do their job for the day. Now it takes them 15 to 30 minutes. That is 2 extra hours per person per shift of getting wrenches on task. That improves reliability, uptime, improved maintenance. And so the impacts for something just as simple as finding data very quickly is dramatically transforming what can be done in these industrial settings. And we're at the very earliest stages of this. And so in 3 years, it's going to get even smarter in the sense that we will start to be able to build foundation models that are trained on this contextualized data
Industrial specific
in your specific facility, right? And so you're going to see that transition happen actually very quickly. It's already started.
It's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being on the Industrialist. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Adam.